there. I'm your host, Leslie Randolph. I'm a self-confidence coach for teenage girls and the self-confidence coach you wish you had as a teen. Honestly, I'm the self-confidence coach I wish I had as a teen because I know I could have saved myself and my mother a whole lot of heartache if I'd only known then what I know now. I hope to save you some of that suffering by sharing the lessons I learned late in life right here on Why Didn't They Tell Us? Welcome to the show.
And hey, happy people. Welcome back to Why Didn't They Tell Us? So I'm gonna start off with like a bold statement. I've already decided that this is going to be one of my favorite episodes and a must listen for moms of tweens and teens. And to be honest, not just for them, but for you too. Because today we're talking about friendship, what it means and what it takes to be a friend, to have friends, and to foster meaningful connections. Listen, every time I talk to a mom about confidence coaching for her tween or teen, the topic of friendship always comes up. It's often framed a little like, well, if my daughter just had friends, or if she was part of the friend group, then she'd feel more confident. And part of the reason they're working with me is to help make that happen. Like, okay, if Leslie, the life coach, comes in, she'll have the confidence and then she'll have the group of friends. And honestly, I totally get it. Confidence can come more easily when you have friends. Having friends becomes this living, breathing reflection of the beliefs that bolster true self-confidence. I belong. I'm wanted. I'm liked. I matter. That kind of belonging can absolutely boost your confidence. But, and this is a big but, there is a huge difference between fitting in and having friends. That nuance sometimes gets lost in middle school and even high school, where not fitting in can feel really scary. And not just for tweens and teens, but also for the well-meaning adults who love them and want the best for them. But when fitting in becomes the goal instead of finding real, authentic friendships, that can actually chip away at your self-confidence because it often requires you to be something you're not, to abandon your voice and your values in exchange for acceptance. So today we're getting into all of it. The lunch table politics, the friend groups, the pressure to fit in, and how to help our girls find the kind of friendships that last through the highs and the lows. Now, to help me do that, I've called in an expert on all things friendship. Nina Badzin has spent over a decade studying, writing, and speaking about the complexities of friendship. In 2014, she became a friendship advice columnist, answering anonymous letters from readers, navigating the ups and downs of their relationships. And she hasn't stopped since. Today, Nina shares her insights through her popular newsletter and top-rated podcast, Dear Nina, Conversations About Friendship. See, Nina, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me so much.
Oh, I'm so happy that you're here and truly the guru. We have the guru of all things friendship here. So you're gonna educate us all.
Well, really, I suffer with you. I suffer with everybody. So that's part of what I do. I have been talking about this stuff for so long and talking to strangers, talking to people on the show, talking about it, reading about it constantly. But I don't always have the answer, of course. But I've heard it all. I've seen it all. And I suffer with you as a mom, as a person, as a human, and somebody who cares so much about friendship. And we'll talk about it together. I wish I had you in my life when I was a kid. And frankly, when I was a younger mom.
Yeah, because we all need it. So tell me something before we even dive into my Dear Nina questions. Does all of the above resonate? I mean, you've answered so many letters. Am I speaking the truth with what I say?
Yes. I was nodding my head. It was hard for me not to jump in and be like, yes, exactly. Right. And yes, that fitting in versus having authentic, true friendship is something that even adults deal with, because I want to clarify that I mostly deal with adults in my work. However, I feel very strongly that these topics are completely timeless, ageless. That's both a good thing for our work, but also a hard thing because it never really ends. And so it begins when we're really young, actually, this sense of didn't get invited to the sleepover. Do I have friends? Do I not? All the way to, can I get a seat at the canasta table when I'm in Florida and when I'm in my 80s? there are skills that you need to develop, and confidence, like is a lot of your work, is a huge piece of it. It never ends.
Never ends. And you know, it's so funny. You just made me think about a couple months ago. I was talking about my work with a group of women that I'm in a networking group with. And one of them was telling me how her mom, this is my peer, is struggling with confidence right now because she is in like a retirement community and is feeling exactly what you just said. Like there are groups and she is not part of it. And it's really taking a toll on her.
I think a huge issue people have at all ages is that they are looking for a belonging into a certain group. They have identified a group, and it can be because what other people think about this group, what they themselves think about this group, but oftentimes that is because what other people think of this group, they've adopted like, oh, this is the group. And we can use the word popular, but it's not always that. But that's sort of a term, at least we used in the 90s, like in the 80s growing up. And I don't know if kids say that as much today, but it doesn't matter because it's true for adults too. It's like you get in your head like, oh, if I were, like you said in your intro, if I were just part of this group, then everything would be great and I would always have something to do and I would always feel a sense of belonging. And it is not true. And yet we commit to it generation after generation after generation. We commit to this idea that, oh, there's some magical group that is the gateway to all of my happiness based on, I guess, this decision that within this school setting or camp setting or group setting at tennis, wherever you are, that it has been decided these are the kids or these are the adults I need to be friends with. You couldn't ruin your whole life that way.
100%. And you took us exactly where I wanted to start it, because I can't make it through a coaching session with a teen or a tween. And you're absolutely right. I think it does pertain to us at all ages. I mean, my retirement home story, friend groups, they're very real. And it's like, I want to ask, how did we get here? Like, was this very real when popular was the term? I think today, Nina, the term would be preppy, but I'll ask my daughter. Like, yes. Those are the preppy girls.
You're probably right. Although there's groups at all levels, if you want to use like levels in quotes. By the way, I think groups have always been there. They preceded us and they're never going anywhere because groups are a human survival function. Like we're not going to be able, it's actually good to lean into that. Not that you have to have a group, because you do not have to have a group to be happy. However, wishing groups away is not going to solve anything because they're not going anywhere. So I think we need to accept that the groups are here to stay, that human beings put themselves in groups for a sense of survival. We actually would not have survived of a species if we didn't have tribes and groups and people who did different functions. And it's like that same mindset has survived and it's not going to go away. It's just too ingrained in the way we do things. What we need to do is not rest our happiness and confidence and sense of belonging on being in a certain group. I think that, or a group at all. You really don't have to have a group. I know that it is hard to accept that. Studies really do show that you can have 2 to 3 close friends and be perfectly happy both as a kid and as an adult. But I do think that requires taking away the expectation that I won't be happy unless I'm in a certain group or in a group at all.
100%. And I'll backtrack a little bit because you totally hit on this. I love my story of, that pack mentality. And when we used to be on safari in South Africa, if you saw one impala, which is like this deer-like creature, alone, you got really sad because that one impala was going to be prey. But when that impala had a group, you knew that they would protect each other, right? Now, never does that feel more true than in middle school and high school, because that we're still living in survival mode. Our prefrontal cortex isn't developed. So we are very much little impala trying to be part of the pack. But I love what you've said here of that idea of the certain group. And I think it speaks to that idea of fitting in versus finding true friendships.
Right. To fit in, you have to possibly change things about yourself. You have to possibly change your interests or the way you talk or the way you dress or do your hair. And that is not the same as friendship. That's fitting in. That's a different thing. That's not the same takeaway. And it's something I would not push people to go for. Like, I guess in real life, it doesn't help you to stand out so outrageously all the time. I mean, that's just realistic. If you are someone who has no friends at all and you're trying to make your way through a new school or something, yes, in an ideal world, it'd be great if you could just be your wild, eccentric self all the time. It's probably not great advice to give to a kid that they should always say the outrageous thing and always look completely different. They're going to have a harder time. That's just real life. At the same time, I wouldn't tell them to just be exactly like everyone else, right? There's like a balance there somewhere in the middle.
100%. And in finding that balance and being willing to not be part of the certain group and being willing to say, hey, those two or three people, that's what I need. And if I can still be myself, then maybe I can find those 2 or 3 people. Like, it might not be the giant herd of Impala, but you've got that buddy that, I'm going to say, and I use air quotes, like that protection.
And there's so many other floating singletons out there, people looking for a friend, people looking for a friend or two. And sometimes I think these kids, teens, and even adults, and again, it's adults I hear from most, and on all the same things, I think they don't find each other because they're all looking at these big groups, like yearning for it. And they're wasting their time. They're trying to be part of something that has rejected them, perhaps, and feeling bad about it and spending a lot of time thinking something's wrong with them. And instead of finding other people that they match with better, I actually think parents get in the way a lot of kids who might naturally let go of the group and find other people to hang out with. But the parents are so beside themselves that their kid is not included that they get kind of hysterical with the kid instead of being the steady force that says, those people are fine, but we can find other people, instead of like, what can we do to get into this group? Parents may not say that, but their actions demonstrate that. I assume that no parent would ever say to a child, like, we have to do everything it takes to get you included in Halloween this year. Like, what can we do? No one says that, but they act that way. And so I think the kid takes that in. And I wonder if you see that in your work. Do you see kids who are subtly getting the message from their parents, like, I better get in with a group or this particular group, or my whole high school is going to be a disaster, or all of middle school is going to be a disaster? Are you finding that? Because I kind of see it in the letters I get.
So it's really interesting you say that, because there has never been, well, mom told me it's really important, right? But exactly what you said, through actions and behaviors more so. And so what I get the opportunity to see is the tween or the teen's actions or behaviors of, like, staying at a lunch table, and I used the word lunch table politics, staying at a lunch table where every day is almost an anxiety-inducing experience because they don't feel wanted there. But when there's that exploration of, like, so where else could you sit? Who else could you be friends with? Who else could you connect with? No, there's nowhere else. And I'll even sometimes go so far as to say, so there are 12 people in your grade? Well, no, there's, 450 or what? Okay. So what's going on with the other 400 plus that we can't move tables? And it's really, there's still that ingrained idea, whether it's from the tween or teen or from coming down, moving just doesn't feel like an option.
And is it because the parents are friends, or the parents have gotten overly invested in this group? They have done cute group gifts before. They're all on a carpool. They're all on the same team. Some of them go to the same camp. Like, there may be reasons that the parents feel invested in this group that are really getting in the way of the kids naturally growing apart. Kids grow apart, and kids growing apart is not a crisis. I actually think the parents are the ones who sometimes create the crisis. There's something very natural about kids growing apart. And when parents call other people's kids a bully or a mean girl or whatever, because somebody has grown apart from your kid, you've taught your kid that they have to have every single friend forever. And that if they don't, something's wrong with them. And not most friendships don't last forever. A lot of them don't. And it's totally healthy and normal to grow apart. And I do think everybody calls someone else's kid a bully and a mean girl until your kid has grown apart from someone else. And then you kind of realize, oh, that's natural and normal. You have to be careful. You got to be careful of how we're labeling other people's children and what that teaches your kid. But I can tell you from not just writing about friendship and speaking about friendship, but I have 4 kids and they're ages almost 21 down to 13. I have 2 boys, 2 girls. So I've seen a lot of things, and I've seen my own kids not included and me really get overly involved in it. Luckily, when you have 4 kids, you get to do it a little better the second 2 times. And I've seen my kids also want to move on from a friendship. They've grown apart and they don't want to be forced into a friendship because the moms are friends or because they were friends a couple years at camp and we're in the same cabin. That they were 10, 11, 12. Well, now they're 16. Are they married to these friends forever? Because if they aren't friends with them, then they're a mean kid, they're a bully, they're toxic, all these things we label teens for learning about friendship.
So it leads me to a thought and like a good takeaway. What are the qualifiers for an authentic friendship? Because it sounds to me like history and external pressures. The word that keeps flashing in my head, and I had never heard it. This might be embarrassing to admit. I had never heard it until talking to moms. That term social engineering is what I keep thinking about. But so we know, so it sounds like from the guru, history should not be a qualifier for an authentic friendship because history, like the things change. External expectations, like mom's friendship with friend's mom should not be a reason that I stay friends. What would you say are some, qualifiers for an authentic friendship and some that we probably need to start challenging a little bit?
I want to talk about history for a moment because I do think there's huge value in old friendships, but history isn't enough to sustain a friendship. That's where I would challenge history, but it's a factor. It counts. Like if somebody has been a wonderful friend to you and then you had one little issue, I do think history is in your favor there. You don't throw away the whole friendship because look at this whole history. But on the flip, if there's more bad than good, history isn't enough to keep it together. But history does count for the positive when you need to bring in other factors. Like I do think it counts.
I'm going to jump in, and I have some friends who I always tease that I have known them since the day I was born because our moms were in Lamaze together. I am still friends with them. They're still like the monthly attempt at the birthday dinner. I mean, I have known them literally my entire life. And I think to your point of the value of history, it's like, you don't need to do that song and dance of getting to know you. Like very little confidence is needed for that friendship. A lot of times those birthday dinners end up on like someone's couch where we're in sweatpants rather than like dialed up to the nines. There's like, all my stories, all my ugly bits, all my goodness. So there is some beauty. I completely agree to history.
Yes.
It just can't be the standalone.
It can't be the standalone. And from an adult perspective, if you've never been able to maintain any friendships through life, it doesn't have to just be from childhood. I mean, because that people move a lot, let's say, and there's a lot of reasons we don't have old friends. But I mean, if every friend is a new friend in the past 2 years, then I think that's something to consider. I just had an episode on NPR about this and about how being able to maintain some long friendships is really important. And what's interesting is the little sound bites that got put on Instagram or on Facebook from NPR would just have kind of the most difficult sounding sound bites from me. And it would say like, if I said something like, if you have no old friends, something's off. Now that was within the context of a lot more explanation. And that's like what the headline was. Okay. On NPR's Facebook that has 7 million followers. People wrote such vicious things. And I didn't even take it personally because now 10 years ago, I might have like cried into my pillow. I did know they didn't listen to the episode. They read that one line and that one line is harsh. So I don't blame them. Their reaction was like, but then, you're saying that you should be friends with someone no matter what. And that's why I'm saying to you here, like, no, of course, I'm not saying that you should be friends with someone just because you were at camp together in 5th grade. Of course not. It's just that if you have this long history, it does count for something. The parents being friends, there's also a positive there in that you do become close friends with people because of proximity all through life. Even in the retirement home, you're going to be friends with people who live in the same units as you because proximity is a known factor in becoming friends just because of life. And that was true like back in prehistoric ages, right? Like we were talking about, you needed that connection and that social tribe to literally survive and eat and survive the animals and everything. But even nowadays, with life being so busy and people living so spread out, every one of our friends cannot be a 45-minute drive. So when you're little and your parents met in Lamaze class, like you and your friends, like that's normal. That's not so I'm not saying it's a bad thing to meet people because it's convenient, because you go to the same school, because your parents introduced you. But when your parents introduced you, because of proximity, you became friends. It doesn't mean you aren't going to grow apart. And parents need to let go. But back to your original question of, well, then what is an authentic friendship? We talked about being able to be yourself, right, in terms of belonging versus friendship. I often tell people, and it sounds so obvious, but my biggest advice is you should be friends with people you like. And actually, I know it seems really obvious, but people do a lot of mental gymnastics to figure out like how to make a friendship work. And it's like, do you like this person? Do you feel good around them? Because what does do you like them mean? Like we can parse that out a little bit. Do you feel good when you're in their presence? Do you feel like they bring out your best parts of yourself? If you are with a certain friend and you always gossip with that friend, like it's all you have in common is like and we all do this to some extent. So I'm not saying I'm like perfect in this regard at all. But do you have a friendship, let's say, where that is all you do together? That friendship is not bringing out the best in you. If you never talk about your work with that person or your other positive things going on in your life, or even challenging things, maybe you're having a challenge with someone in your family or a friend, fine, or work, or maybe you haven't found your passion in life and you want to talk about that with a friend. If there are people in your life you could never talk about those things with, all you could do is talk about other people, that's probably a friendship where you don't like that person that much. Maybe you have to really investigate that in yourself because you don't feel safe to like bring up other things about yourself. You're only talking about other people.
Mm-hmm.
So I know I'm kind of going off a tangent here, but I'm just trying to show that difference between being yourself and liking the other person and kind of desperately trying to fit in and go to that lowest common denominator of not having to be brave, not having to have opinions that are beyond just the lowest hanging fruit of other things that are annoying about people.
So I fully hear that. So the qualifier would be that ability to not just go with it, like the only word I can think of is like go with the flow, but to be willing to stop the tide and say like, hey, let's talk about something else too. Like to be able to have, it sounds like authentic relationship requires diversity within the friendship of it's not just this is the one friend that I got. This is my friend that I just gossip with.
Yeah. And safety. I think so. Do you feel like safe? I hate the overuse of the word safe, but like you know it and you feel it. Do you feel like if I change the subject, and I wouldn't like make a big deal about changing the subject, but yeah, if you change the subject, if you bring up something about yourself, like, oh, I've been really thinking, I just like hate my job and I like don't even know what to do next. Is the other person gonna be like, oh, here we go. Like they don't really want to talk about you. They only maybe want to talk about themselves or a TV show or something basic. That and it's okay to have friendships that are more surface. That we need all kinds of friendships, but I'm talking about close friend. Like you need people in your life who you can be your authentic self with, and that's what I mean by safe. You know that they're not going to screenshot that conversation if it's over text and send it to somebody. This is for all ages. You need to have people in your life that you feel safe with. Your information is private. They care about your feelings and your thoughts, and everything isn't open for judgment and sharing with other people. That's what safety in a friendship feels like. And I think also authenticity, that's what an authentic friendship feels like.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to like I feel safe to show all my ugly bits, like because you love them as much as you love the goodness that's within me. So I'm thinking about like our tween groups again and our teen groups again. And I always think like most adults, we all have a tween or teen still inside us because we didn't have Ninas of the world teaching us about friendship or
Leslie's.
or Leslie's teaching us confidence. Sure, I'll take it. And while we still have that pack mentality, you talk about safety. Well, I don't feel good in these friendships. but I also don't feel safe leaving the table. What advice would you give them?
So this is going to be kind of tough and harsh now. This is like the harsher, tougher part of this episode. You cannot put all your eggs in one basket. And in this case, the baskets are school. So we're talking about tweens. School, activities, family. Family. I was going to say home. That's the same thing. But like, let's think, but family, home, one bucket, because you can also have cousins and other positive relationships in your family. School, activities, family, and I don't really know if there's another thing. I guess summer. For some, it's not true for everyone who listens to you, but I do think a lot of your listeners probably go to camp, and so that is like a separate bucket. Let's call that a completely separate bucket. So different from activities, because activities I'm thinking of during the school year, and the lunch table is a school bucket. And even though you have to go every day, I think it's important to give kids perspective that where you sit at lunch doesn't define your whole personhood. It does affect where you sit at lunch. I mean, there's no denying it. It affects that period of the day, and it may affect certain other school activities. Like if you have a field trip and you have to request who you're in a little group with, or you have to request who you sit on the bus with, some of that same lunch table stuff is probably going to come into play there. Certain kids are going to want to be with certain kids in the field trip. I know that. But after school is a whole nother unit of time that you can help your kid feel good about. Summer is a whole nother unit of time, and then home. So like one thing we did in our home, which I really am going to like proselytize here a little bit and urge other people to do. We have Shabbat dinner every single Friday night. So for any of your non-Jewish listeners, that's the Jewish Sabbath. That's on Friday night. And the kids had to be home. People used to think that that would be a burden on the kids. Like, oh, do your kids mind? Actually, it gave my kids at certain times in their life an out. They couldn't go out on Friday night. Now, we do actually, as they got older and they could drive themselves, we let them go out after to friends' houses. But that's a lot of years. All of middle school, they had to be home. They could invite friends, but didn't have to. And that's why I said home is a unit, family. It's a safe place to be where you're wanted. You're actually required to be there. So it's out of your, it doesn't have to, you don't have to be Jewish. Maybe it's one night a week. It doesn't have to be Friday. It's one, but weekend. That's like weekend as a time where kids have a lot of social pressure and they always have to have something to do. It's not the worst thing to have some sort of family thing, and maybe every week is too much for you, but maybe it's once a month. Maybe at least once a month there's one Friday night or one Saturday night that is family time, and might be a relief to your kids that they don't have to make plans. So some positivity in your kids' weekend that isn't reliant on the lunch table.
I couldn't love that more, because it does exactly what the message behind the action, which is that ability to zoom out and remember what happens at that lunch table or who gets invited Friday night to the party. It is one facet of your life, and it is not a reflection of who you are, your worth, your love or likability. It is who you sit with at lunch and who you hang out with on Saturday. And that's also not minimizing those friendships, but it's also like it speaks to that balance of like what we have here at home is equally important. These connections are equally important. I couldn't love that more.
Yeah. People forget about it, Leslie. They forget that it's like you're the parents, not, or even if you're a single parent, fine, that's fine too. You're the parent, and the relationship of you and the child is very important, and among the siblings. And if there's cousins in town, like it'd be wonderful to foster some of that, so that everything that your kid does that is social with other human beings doesn't depend on some other 13-year-old's approval. Somebody loves you, somebody finds you amusing, bring grandparents in. Like I'm so grateful we have a couple grandparents in town. My parents were in Chicago, but my husband's parents are in Minneapolis. These other relationships, like older cousins who have showered some love on them and made them feel good, added to their confidence. I mean, it really speaks to your work. It's a lot to ask other tweens to give your kids confidence. They're not going to do that. That's not their job either. But also to give kids more joy in their week, if the lunch table is not a place of that, activities. And if one activity isn't working, switch activities. Okay, they've been in gymnastics for 6 years and they don't love it. Girls aren't that nice to them. Switch it up, move on, like switch to another activity. And another place to look that again, at least when I was growing up in Highland Park, and I know not all your listeners are from there, it was not often, people didn't participate much. I didn't realize until I got to college that this was a thing. But youth groups, whatever religion you're in, or even if you're not a member of a synagogue or a church or anything, maybe it's time to look to those communities for something different. Your kid's not fitting in at gymnastics. They don't like team sports, let's say. They're not a musician, so that they're not a theater kid. Okay, there's still another bucket to try, and that's a faith community. And it's often overlooked. But what I like about that as an option for kids where the lunch table isn't working out and other activities aren't working out is it gives the kids yet another basket, another bucket. I call them buckets instead of baskets, to dip into, to have positive relationships where there might be, and it's not true at all in every community and in every youth group, but there might be a chance that there is a discussion of relationships and morals that are above us. Like there's a sense that you're not the only person in this world, and what it takes to get along with other people.
100%. I have two of those. Your conversations remind me that we come from a mixed house. I'm Jewish, my husband's not, but I made the decision to join a temple because I remember thinking like it was really important for me, and I think this goes across all religions, that my kids have like an anchor, that they have this anchor to come back to that reminds them of who they are, what their values are, what their voice could be when aligned with those values. So that was really why I had joined that community. The word anchor is what stuck with me. And I've also found that, I mean, I've found that with some team sports where, I've become very close with the moms and the kids all get along. Girl Scouts, which
Yes.
Girl Scouts.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that. Exactly. That's a whole nother kind of basket and bucket to put some time into.
It has been such a gift, and it has been, and it was, I'm going to go back to some of the language. It was not the certain group. I didn't come from a Girl Scout. I am not a camper, though I made it through a camping trip last month. I'm so proud of me.
Good
Talk
job.
about confidence. That it has been such a beautiful addition to our buckets, and I'm so thankful for it.
You know what we're hitting on, Leslie? And it's so important. It's different than friendship. But it's just as important for kids' development and adults. We're talking about the difference between friendship and community, and they are different, but they're both essential in your life. Friendship requires you, okay, and it's so, I mean, what could I think it's so important in your life. And it's more of a one-to-one, or even within a group, though. But even within a group, there's always one-to-one relationships in a group. Community is happening at a bigger level, and it teaches you leadership skills. It teaches you to take care of something like beyond your family and your friends, and it's happening without you. So I always think about, my husband takes the kids, different ages, it depends how old they are, whatever, to synagogue every Saturday. That community that is happening whether my husband shows up or not. And it's important for the kids to see that things happen without them. That lunch, that talk, that sermon, that everything that's going on is happening. Doesn't matter if Brian Badzin shows up. It's bigger than our family. It's bigger than our kids. It's bigger than any one family. That's true for Girl Scouts. That's true for other communities. That's what I love about those kind of things. You plug into it because it's already existing and functioning without you. But that's how our society functions, is people have to join things. We can't all be on our little silos in our little 12-person lunch table with no concept that there's a whole cafeteria here. The lunch table is not a community. It's a friendship thing. Community is bigger and important and more important in a way. And for society, well, they're not more important. It's like equally important. We don't talk about it that much.
What I love here is that reminder that if I don't fit in at that lunch table and I don't feel good at that lunch table, there are communities where I could feel good, where I could find more people that allow me to feel like me, versus when I think about fitting in again, it's like I'm going to be a square peg trying to jimmy my way into a round hole.
Yeah. And we kind of brought up a little bit about how we might have felt as teens, and if that is coming into play when we give our kids advice, I think, about how to handle the lunch table. And then maybe you had no problem at lunch, and so you're just like, you think that it's so important that your kid has no problem, but that's not your kid's journey. Your kid's journey might be that school isn't their number one place that they feel great about themselves. And you can't call every parent to make it so. I do think it's worth always, I think, talking to the school counselor, talking to a teacher. I mean, it depends on the age of the kid, but, and I'm not an expert on teenagers or kids' development. I'm just going to say that right now, but just through experience, I'm not saying you have to be all on your own on this, and you should get help, and people like you, Leslie, like you, if you can get your kid help to work on their skills and stuff. But at a certain point, it may be that this lunch experience for your kid is never going to be amazing.
Or it's never going to be socially amazing. Maybe it's an opportunity to then go for that teen or that tween to go meet with a teacher that they feel it becomes like that aunt or that grandparent or that, friend, that family you bring over, that when they get to see themselves through their lens, they're like, I really do matter. Maybe I don't have my people at that lunch table, but this teacher that sits and has lunch with me reminds me that like I matter, I belong. So it might be an opportunity for other connection.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to close it out with some Dear Nina, like rapid fire. Okay.
Yes.
What are some practical ways that tweens and teens can build authentic friendships?
So I'm going to give the teens and tweens advice that I give all adults. And it is, number one, to stop keeping score. If you can stop keeping score of who texted first, who sent the snap first, who opened your snap fastest, that kind of stuff, you will be so much happier. And the second that the kids, and I try to tell this to my own kids, they don't always listen. Like, who cares if they left you unopened this time? Like, so open their text. Who cares? Like they get very tied to, like, this person did this thing, so I'm going to do that exact thing to them. Or this person didn't do this thing, meaning they didn't open my snap or they didn't invite me first. Like, I'm the one who reached out last time and said, do you want to come over on Saturday night? Well, they should ask me next time. Well, guess what, guys? Adults barely do it that way either. But adults also keep score. And so I tell adults that same thing. If you are willing to be the best person at reaching out, like, you just do not care that it was always you, you will always have plans. You will always have something to do. People who make plans have plans. And I'm not saying it should always be with the same person. Yes, if you have asked somebody 20 times in a row to get together and they never show interest, no, stop. Yes, stop asking that person. But don't be afraid to always be the first with other people. Like, keep moving on. Just move on. And that's my number one advice, is don't keep score. Learn to have the confidence. You have to force it. It's a learned skill. Nobody comes to it naturally. I guess I shouldn't say nobody. Very lucky few people naturally don't have that self-consciousness that, wait, am I always reaching out? But it's a big one. If you could get over it, if you can answer that question and say, yep, it is always me. That's okay. I'm going to do it anyway. As long as a person answers, or if they can't do that date, they give you another time. To me, that is equal to that they reached out first. Hey, you want to hang out Saturday night? Oh, I can't do it this Saturday. My family has such and such, but I can do it next Saturday. Okay, good. We're on equal ground. That person ignored your text. Okay, now we have a different story. We're moving on to somebody else. So that was the first one. And actually, I think that's the main one, because it's such a big deal for adults too.
Oh, it's so good. I'm reading a book called the oh my gosh, The Go-Giver. And the author was talking about, like, standing at a fire and looking at a fire and saying, make me warm, but you're holding on to all the wood. And that's what it was reminding me of.
So
like,
good.
You have to put the wood in if you want the fire to feel warm. And I think that's the same thing with friendship. And if I go back to, like, my coaching lens, we always get to decide what that unopened snap means, what that unanswered text, what their behavior of not asking first. You get to decide what you make that mean. And I would offer for tweens, and I'll touch on adults in a moment. We get to decide that they're just probably a little nervous and shy and insecure too. It's just you choosing confidence, you exercising that skill to be the confident one to reach out first. Because we're all just still figuring this out together.
That's right. And be friends with people you like, as I already said to teens. And do you like this person? Why are we chasing people we don't like? Be friends with people you like, you enjoy, who make you laugh, who make you feel good.
And I think that there's an opportunity for us as moms to be having conversation, like to be making that a really like part of the Friday night dinner, if you take Nina's advice or whatever, your weekly or your monthly, like, what do you like about that friend? How do you feel around them? Like to be asking those questions. And hey, if this is resonating with you as an adult of like, man, I don't know if I really, if these, right? What do you like about these people? How do they make you feel? What are your favorite things to do with them?
Do they bring out the best in you? Yeah.
Yes. So good. Now, does any of that, I assume not, but I'll ask, does any of that advice change for adults who might need some advice on making, keeping, losing friendships as you talk about so much?
Really? No. I mean, it's the same advice. And I would give the same advice to your friend's mom in the retirement community who feels like she's being sort of frozen out. People, especially as time gets short, I would say, and not just because of their age, but just because there's a lot of things always going on in a day, get very protective of their time. And so sometimes it's not like even personal. I guess actually this is advice for tweens and adults. I would focus on people who are equally open to friendship. And that might not be the people you are trying to be with at first. And so you have to move on. You have to move on from people who have shown you that they are closed. And also, let's not label those people bullies and this and that. They may just be overworked, especially for adults. Like I think when you move to a new town, you and I have both experienced this, Leslie. You move to a new town and you're like trying to get in with a certain group, and they're very set with they've got their thing going. And sometimes people have a lot of fear, like, oh no, is this person going to like start asking me for coffee once a week? And maybe in your mind, you were just going to ask them once because you're just trying to break in, and they give you the chill because they don't want to go on a weekly walk with you. And you almost want to be like, don't worry, I wasn't going to ask you every week, but okay, fine. Like they're scared to be over asked. So move on. Like this person isn't a monster. Like they're scared. They don't want to be overtaxed. Move on to the next person, to the person who has some openness to them. And how do you know that? They respond to your stuff. They don't seem squeamish about getting together with you. And they have some enthusiasm about a new friend. And if you get the whiff that they don't, just keep moving on.
I love that. Yeah. People you like, don't keep score. Find people you like and people that are open to friendship.
Yeah.
All so obvious. So wonderful. Nina, I'll let you close out the show. Anything else before we thank you for your time and your wisdom?
This would be for a whole other episode that you should do. And I'm probably going to talk about in the future. Well, I know I am in Chicago, actually. And that is to be very careful how overly involved in engineering you get about your kids' friendships. Just be careful. Careful how you label other people's kids, and careful how much you ask other people to do favors for your kid, because you end up squashing your kids' ability to make their own authentic friendships, as we've been talking about. Friendships can't be favors. You got to be careful, because parents are out there. I'm telling you, Leslie, I know you're hearing it. Parents are out there asking their own friends to basically do favors for the kid, and it's actually not a favor. It's you're keeping that kid from the inevitable, which is they're probably going to need to move on from this group.
You are forcing that kid to be the square peg in the round hole. Yeah. Well, I can't wait to hear it. Nina, tell my listeners where they can find you. I will include all of it in the show notes, but I know you've got goodness coming up, so let us know.
My podcast is called Dear Nina Friendship, and on Instagram and TikTok. Yes, I'm an old middle-aged lady on TikTok.
Good for you.
I love it, actually. They're both Dear Nina Friendship.
Amazing. Well, Nina, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. My friends, why didn't they tell us? We should be friends with people that we like.
Leslie, I like you right away. I knew I liked you, so we're going to be friends.
It is so mutual, and I thank you for this, and my lovely listeners, go out there, make some meaningful connections. Be you. Find people who like you, for you, and make you feel good. And I'm cheering you on for all. And that you like.
Thanks,
I'm
Leslie.
cheering you on for all of it. Thank you, Nina.
Love what you hear? Well, I'd love to hear from you. You can find me at confidencecoachforgirls.com. That's confidencecoachforgirls.com. or email me at lesliethelifecoach@gmail.com. That's lesliethelifecoach@gmail.com. Hope to hear from you.